This is Envision Self-Healing Podcast, episode number 42. Hi, I'm Will Fuller.
And I'm Richard Miller.
And we are the co-creators of EnvisionSelfHealing.com and are dedicated in helping you improve your eyesight and quality of life
by taking healing into your own hands. The topic of the week this week is Overcoming Barriers to Natural Vision Improvement, Part 3. And in the question of the week, we have a question from YouTube that asks, will working at the computer for long hours affect my vision in the long run and in the short run?
So Richard, how's the world of self-healing been treating you this week?
Well, I've been doing a lot of palm. It's been dark and rainy in San Francisco, as you well know. So I've been doing much more palming lately and some head rotation. But my exercise has been going well. I had two observations this week.
Okay.
The first was actually related to, when we do these podcasts, come up with these topics, they obviously still affect us. Sometimes they actually come out of our experience. And in this way, it was sort of got me thinking about, and our last podcast was about perfectionism and procrastination.
Your brain was procrastinating. It didn't want to think about it.
Exactly, yeah. Which I brought up. So I put them on the list, so it's no surprise that they're important to me. But I found out one further sort of development, at least on my part. I'm not sure this is everyone's part, but... So it's just a further development of I have this pattern basically of being perfectionistic, which, I developed over a lifetime basically. And now, so I'm putting perfectionism on self-improvement, vision improvement as well. So that becomes a barrier in the sense that I set too high standards or, if I don't do it perfectly or if I don't do the right amount, then I sort of beat myself up about it. Mm-hmm. And that's a barrier unto itself. But the further barrier that developed that I became aware of this week, and this is like becoming aware of patterns of behavior, or they're sort of like they're habit patterns, they're emotional patterns that kind of get in your way. And the further one was, okay, so now I set myself up as this perfect practitioner of vision improvement or something like that. Mm-hmm. And of course I'm not, but...
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I set this up as the model for myself, sort of like this rigid pattern of who I am. Mm-hmm. And then, lo and behold, I rebel against that. So I'm even the one setting up this image of who I am. This is who I should be. And even though I'm the one who set it up, I rebel against it.
So you're the father and the rebellious child.
Exactly, simultaneously. Yeah, that's good, actually. So that's a pattern I have to be aware of, and I have to be careful not to set it's just a consequence of being too rigid about and too perfectionistic about who I want to be. So it's just a pattern I noticed that sabotages me even more than even the perfectionism. So
do you think you might run the risk of not setting goals at all or not try it at all so that you don't rebel against your own perfection?
Yeah, I think there is a risk of that. But see, you're probably on the other side of the spectrum for me, so you probably can't relate to this as well. Mm-hmm. That you're very good at setting up goals and being disciplined about that and treating it as a totally positive thing. Mm-hmm. And for me, I have to sort of dance around that. I have to sort of make sure I don't push that button too, So it's a bit tricky. So for instance, now I'm out. I wasn't rebelling about doing my eye exercise. I was rebelling against doing the website work. Okay. Which I guess has less consequences to me, but more consequences to our audience. But
I'm sure they thank you for that.
Yeah. So like for instance, I'm going to be doing some of my work on the road. Instead of chaining myself to a chair, I'm going to be working on my phone and going out and maybe photographing while I do an email and then take a photograph, something like that. Some way of not making it into such a drudgery that I look at it as a sort of a ball and chain. So.
Yeah, it's a real... It's really the same as exercises for everyone, is it? Or any sort of task, I guess. If you view it in a negative light, then you're just not going to want to do it. You have to enjoy what you're doing and And I guess with the exercises, initially people do it out of fear. They're afraid they're going to lose their vision.
Right.
And then maybe after a couple of months of doing the exercises, that fear goes away, but their vision still isn't where they want it to be.
Right.
And so, that interest, that doing it because you enjoy doing the exercises just isn't there. And then you procrastinate and lose the ability to do the exercises before the benefits kick in.
Yeah, and then you can convince yourself that the exercises don't work, or there's lots of sort of mental things that then follow on that. So yeah. So anyway, that was the pattern I noticed this week, and it did, as I say, I think I've actually gotten so I'm pretty regular at the eye exercises, and I'm not rebelling against that for some reason.
Excellent. That's good because you're teaching people around the world to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So and that's and actually the Skyping with my friend in the morning really has helped.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's not just me sitting, in a room alone doing those exercises anymore. It's something, it really helps me to have someone else to connect with that way.
Yeah, I think we covered this quite a few podcasts back, but we talked about networking and having somebody there, having a support network, another human being that you can talk to and join you on your journey or whatever it is that you're doing. It's important.
Yeah, and I started using Skype maybe a month and a half ago or so, and it's continued to work. Just for both of us, my friend and I are both. We have to get up. We have to be there at the computer terminal. So
excellent.
Yeah, it's been working. So the only other thing I was going to report on this week was sort of a funny aspect that I thought maybe our listeners would encounter once their vision starts improving. So I've been walking around and, as I said, doing a lot of palming, and
You've been walking around and palming. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How explain a little bit more on that.
Okay, that was my grammar. That was my American grammar getting the best of me. Oh, I've been doing all this palming.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were really integrating the eye exercises into your life.
Ooh, now that would be entertaining, especially since I live on a hill that's about 45 degrees. So it'd be really interesting. No, okay. So I've been doing all this palming, and I've started to notice. Two qualities is just from the palming is my left eye engaging more. I can actually feel my left eye engaging more. Excellent. Just from palming, which is interesting to me. Well, I do other things, but that's predominantly what I'm doing right now. And then a little boost in clarity I've noticed as well. The walking around part is when I'm out walking around, I notice it. I guess that's true. I don't pay as much attention in my own home now I think about it. It's when I get out and start looking at things that I notice that shift.
Excellent.
But the part that's funny is I was talking to my neighbor about house stuff that we're cooperating on, and I noticed that I'm looking at her face and so captivated by the clarity of my vision that I can barely listen to what she said. It just struck me as funny. It's like I'm just absorbed in looking, and it was a funny moment to think that people could be stuck like that.
That's funny because you've just reminded me of maybe 6-7 months ago. I talked about how I was having a conversation with someone in a coffee shop. Yeah. And it was in downtown San Francisco, very busy, and there was people in my periphery walking up and down, and I wasn't used to seeing movement in that part of my periphery. Right. And it's just so difficult to try and concentrate on what somebody's saying.
Yeah. You feel like such a geek, like I'm not even listening to you. I'm looking at the clarity of your eyebrow right now, and she's talking to me.
And at the same time, you don't want to stop, right? Because you want to hold on and try and make it better, see if you can see more clarity.
Right, yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd share that because other people might have similar experiences.
Yeah.
So how was your week?
Yeah, good. Certainly a lot to report on this week. Obviously, I can't fit it all in today, so I think I'm probably going to save a little bit for our coaching call that we've got on Monday. Right. Because that way people have to listen because they've actually paid to listen. So you've got no choice. So I thought I'd save a lot of it for them, but I'm just going to choose one main event, I guess, that happened this week. And it was one of the very rare occasions that I was working down at the school. And the rare occasion was that I actually had time to talk with Mia Schneider. We're normally so busy, all going in different directions. And one of my questions, you sort of have to have all these questions on the tip of your brain to make sure you can get them out quick enough to get your answer. And this week I really noticed that I was engaging a lot more with the blur in my periphery.
Okay.
Something that was static or wasn't there, and now it's sort of more, I could make out shapes and stuff, as everybody knows I've been talking about. Anyway, if anybody knows what it's like to overcome blindness, it's Mia Schneider.
Yeah, right. That's good.
Was blind as a child and now drives a car in California. So I thought I would test and see if what I thought I was seeing is genuine or not. So I asked him, I said, so when you started overcoming your blindness, he must have thought this was a pretty strange question all of a sudden. And I'm sure I remember it being in his book, but I wanted to hear directly from him. I said, what did you first start noticing? And he said the first thing he started noticing was light. And then he also noticed that his eyes were hurting a lot for a while, and eventually that passed. And then he started seeing what I described as contrasts. Not even necessarily an object, because that means form or shape, just an awareness of either a black or white. So I was describing this to him, not the other way around. I was saying, so did you then notice sort of change in contrast and stuff? And he was like, yeah. I was like, and then after that, you were able to sort of see an object, not necessarily know what that object was, but you kind of knew.
It has form,
Yeah. And he was like, yeah. And then I was like, and then as you continued, you were able to bring a bit more detail to it, the straight lines, height, size, and all the rest of it. And he said, yeah. So it really sort of confirmed for me that what I'm observing in my periphery is, that blindness starting to recede and the vision appearing that it was never there before, or is starting to return back over something that wasn't there. So so we then chatted for a little bit more about certain exercises and stuff that really helped him and whatnot. So that was really good for me, especially as I then did the peripheral vision test. Remember I said every year I test my periphery on that chart, and my left had stayed the same, but I actually noticed a slight improvement with my right eye.
Wow.
Which is my better eye. And there was the test that I do, I sort of mark markings on a piece of paper where I identify the letters or numbers. And on this page, I was able to identify more. And also I noticed I was returning to certain spots a lot more than others, showing that I was really seeing. It wasn't a guess. I really knew that something was there in my vision. So, it was nice. So it sort of went from last week of, I did this test and I didn't quite get the results that I wanted. And then this week I sort of finished the test and then got confirmation from the man himself, Dr. Mia Schneider, that what I was actually experiencing my periphery was actually vision waking up.
Right.
So that was good. And a couple of extra things I'll chat about on Monday.
It does remind me, though, and this is one thing I meant to talk about in terms of the seeing more clarity, is me seeing a little more clarity and you seeing those forms. They're too subtle in some, well, maybe not yours, but they're sort of subtle qualities that don't show up so easily on a test. So if you go to your ophthalmologist office, you would still maybe test similarly. And that's the problem. And then you'd get discouraged and decide it's not working. Yeah. Because those tests are not very subtle.
If you think of the difference of, say for me, one thing I've noticed, if I stand and I've got a bright window to my side, if I move my hand back and forth, I'm able to notice movement of my hand.
Right.
Now, if I want to get a peripheral vision field test, it's a tiny little light that's like the size of a pinprick.
Right, goes on once.
Yeah, for a second, a millisecond, and then we obviously can't see that.
Yeah.
So you just can't compare the two.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah.
The only other thing this week, I guess, is that I was very lucky. My sister sent me a present through the post. And it's funny because we were also talking about trying to create our own T-shirts and tops. Right. And she sent me a top that says, "Keep calm and
envision self-healing."
And those of you that don't quite understand what that is, that's...
don't believe... Well, I'm out of the loop, so go ahead.
It's an old English phrase during the war of keep calm and carry on,
right.
Stiff upper lip and all that. Anyway, my sister sent the T-shirt that obviously says, "Keep calm and carry on self-healing." And I thought, why don't you take a picture here, Richard, and we'll stick it up on Facebook. And I'll pose right here.
All right. Nice.
We'll stick that up on the Facebook page, our Facebook fan page. Just look for Envision Self-Healing, and people will be able to see our brand new T-shirt.
Yeah.
Keep calm.
With the crown on top, which makes me feel very colonial and oppressed.
Yeah, sorry about that, but it works.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have to thank my sister for that one, and certainly enjoying getting some good use out of it. I think some people will find it quite funny during our lectures and workshops.
Yeah. Well, do wear it when you go home too. So.
Okay, great. Well, it's a good time to move on to topic of the week.
And the topic of the week this week is Overcoming Barriers to Natural Vision Improvement, Part 3. And we're going to be looking at a lack of understanding and expecting a quick fix.
And I guess you can kind of relate the first one, the lack of understanding, to what we just talked about there of going to a doctor's office and getting your peripheral field tested.
Mm-hmm.
Not even though you've noticed improvements yourself, the test comes out similar. And if you have that lack of understanding of maybe how the eyes function, or that there is a big difference between moving your whole arm against bright light in comparison to a tiny little low-level LED flashing in the middle of a doctor's office.
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate part, other than ourselves and a few other people in the world who would support those kind of observations, the general medical world wouldn't even look at those kinds of things. So you really do have to be your own expert in some ways. I mean, you have us as well, but that's why we encourage so much for you to learn about your condition and to fully understand how it functions. And
I guess you could also compare it to the fact that the eye chart only goes to 2200.
Oh, yeah.
Anything above 2200 is legally blind, right?
Well, and then I'm going to start complaining now, but there's nothing on those charts between 2100 and 2200. So for me, I've made progress between 2200 and 2100. I go to the doctor's office. No progress. But wait a minute, what about 2160 and 2140 and 2120? They don't exist. So, yeah.
So certainly that lack of understanding, just the individual vision needs individual testing, and to try and test ourselves against the norm, and then sort of then become very unmotivated, and then you get that spiral of procrastination, and then you have to build yourself back up again. Can really come from a lack of understanding, and it could be even more difficult if you don't have the support there from somebody, like ourselves, to point out, maybe you don't have, you don't notice that in fact you have improved if you look at it this way instead of from another.
Well, and I hate to bring up, we're not going to go specific here at all, but you were telling me a story today about going to a party and hearing a woman talk about her vision. And you and I were discussing it, that there's no way she understands what's happening in her vision. There's no way. Yeah,
to the point where, in theory, what she was describing, she should have had no central vision whatsoever.
Right.
But in fact, she had central vision. She was 400.
Yeah.
So it wasn't great vision, but if she knew that, so I said to her, well, can you see my face? And she said, yes. I said, well, then you have your central vision, something that her whole life she's believed she didn't even have the ability to see there. So certainly a lack of understanding there. And I guess
that's an extreme example of where a lack of understanding and she's been to a lot of doctors, but what she describes just is impossible.
Yeah.
So, and it's leading to all of these habits and stuff that it's amazing, but how far it can lead you astray, basically.
And I guess it points out that we only know what we're told.
Right.
Really, and what we experience ourselves. So, if somebody tells us, well, you have no central vision, then
you believe it. Yeah,
believe
it's a doctor, for God's sakes. Yeah.
But also just, in general, in society, whatever we're believed, let's look at the glamour magazines, skinny women walking around in these bikinis with these...
Wait. I like that.
We cut that out.
That's not...
And, the idea that this is what an attractive... woman is to make people, feel that they have to be that way.
That's true.
Sort of a society pressure, let alone the fact that this woman's been, airbrushed in Photoshop for the last 6 hours.
Right. She's been stretched or something in Photoshop. Yeah.
Yeah. And they take all the blemishes away and they play with the lighting and all the rest of it. They add in shading. Who was it? Was it you that was telling me that, say you've got a male model standing there with his top off and his abs, they sort of paint the shadows around the muscles to make it look more...
No, they can actually... Not with Photoshop and actual makeup and stuff.
That's it, yeah. Actual makeup. So so that, we really only know what we believe. And if you're at a party and you say to someone, oh, I saw this thing on vision improvement the other day on the internet. And they go, oh, no, my auntie did that once and it doesn't work. So, and you obviously, you believe it.
Yeah.
And you only know what you're told. But I think on a grander scale for this, we also mean in relation to the exercises and vision improvement itself. If we don't understand how these eye exercises are actually improving our vision, we don't know that they're, unless you're seeing it directly, how do we know they're improving our vision or not?
Yeah, and even in that cocktail party scenario, like if you said, I'm doing eye exercises and I'm seeing improvements, it's, those don't work. Say, well, there's the ciliary muscles around the lens and I'm exercising those, and you could actually sit there and deflate their, they don't work. Because they're really actually saying that they have no idea what they're saying.
Well, and of course, they've only heard that information from someone else.
Right, who also. And that's all that person said is they don't work,
It's like Chinese whispers.
Yeah.
So if, you can also, you could be that person that says, well, actually, no, if you just think about it on a real basic principle, if you relax the ciliary muscle, then the muscle relaxes and then you're able to see in the distance again.
Yeah.
Then that person's like, oh. And then they
repeat that somewhere,
it goes off somewhere else.
Yeah.
So certainly if you don't have that understanding, then it could be easy to lose motivation. It also might drive you to spend a bit more time doing the exercises, because if you, for example, if you do the sunning exercise for 15 minutes and you look around you and everything seems crisper and clearer and there's better color contrast, well, that the sunlight activates the cone cells. That's what's helping you improve. So you're going to do that again because you saw that immediate improvement and you understand why that actually helped your vision in the first place. So then the second thing is expecting a quick fix, and we're all guilty of this. Everyone would love a quick fix as much as we spend time doing these eye exercises. Don't get me wrong, I would much rather do the peripheral vision exercise once and then get rid of my RP completely. That would be fantastic. Of course, there's the other side of it on where it's not just an exercise thing, it's also a lifestyle thing that I've been introduced to, such as eating healthy. My whole perspective on life is different through having to look at self-healing through doing this. But certainly that quick fix we come across quite regularly, don't we?
Yeah. Well, you think about it, it's like what RP is in your family. So let's just give it a sort of a lineage. It's got generations of development through your family and coming up to you, and it's a lifetime thing. So why would you expect it to go away in a few weeks? It makes no sense. And even like myopia is developed over, from let's say age 4 or 5 through 20, and you by looking close for 15, maybe more years, you've developed an elongated eyeball. It took you 15 years to elongate that eyeball. Now we expect I'm going to go out and do a few exercises and get rid of my glasses. In even a month is hard to believe. So it's not as long as what I'm saying. You don't have to spend generations getting rid of RP. You don't have to spend 20 years getting rid of your myopia, but you're up against something that has a lot of momentum behind it. So we have to be realistic about it.
Yeah, I guess that ties in a little bit what we've talked before about setting realistic goals. But in particular here, there seems to be, it's great that with the internet, there's all this great new information out there. But I guess we're in this society now where people would rather try 20 different things for a couple of times a week.
You're right.
And then either sometimes people want to disprove something before they've even started. Some people might read about eye exercises and want to do it, but in fact, they would rather disprove, I did them for 2 weeks, they don't work, so I don't have to spend that time doing those eye exercises again.
I think you're right. There's sort of an underground motivation of, they want the quick fix, so they'll look at something that isn't, and they try and disprove it just because it's not a quick fix to a certain degree. Yeah.
And it's like, it didn't work, move on, next thing, and then they run another, vision website or, some other nutrition or pills or, people are just moving from place to place trying to find this quick fix.
And it fits in with our the technological where we are in technology. We've gotten used to technology or medical science fixing things quickly. It's just we've become accustomed to it.
Well, I mean, look at LASIK, right? Even though I guess people don't know the downsides. A lot of people I've been speaking to about LASIK, they're not actually getting the full story before they get it done. But you pay a couple of $1,000, $3,000-$4,000 per eye. You lie in a chair for 15 minutes, and you're done. You're on your merry way. So why spend a year or two doing eye exercises when in 15 minutes, you could have a similar effect? Of course, what they're doing is they aren't treating the condition; they're just masking it. They're just all these, treating a bad back with painkillers,
or fusing your spine or something like that.
The cause isn't going away, the condition isn't going away. It's sort of a temporary fix almost.
Yeah.
But I think it's certainly something larger going on here. This expectation of a quick fix, and the reason why I say that is today in the news they announced that they've done a new global study, and more people are dying from obesity than they are of malnutrition.
Whoa. Yeah.
So a complete flip side now of people didn't have enough food, and now it's not even that people have too much food, they're just eating junk food.
Right.
And more people are dying from obesity than malnutrition.
Wow.
In the millions.
Wow.
So there's an attitude here. There's something more. There's something more than eye exercises. There's something more than trying to exercise. We seem to have developed a mentality here.
Yeah.
Of if it's not, given to us, why do it? Or even I'll try it for a couple of weeks. I'll try the Atkins diet. I'll try the Mediterranean diet. I'll try raw, and it doesn't work. So then I go back to my old ways. Yeah. Because I proved it wrong. They said I would lose weight. I didn't. So I don't ever have to do that again.
And this gets a little bit to the way we present ourselves, and we take some pride in presenting ourselves as not the quick fix, because there's a lot of vision improvement stuff out there that still plays into that kind of a mythology, really, of get 20/20 vision in, 20 days or whatever.
It's also just sales as well, I think. Yeah. If you think about it, you have to promise these sort of things.
Yeah.
Let's think of something like a car. If you think of the little slogans they put like the ride of your life or some sort of they guarantee you something. I guess otherwise, why would you buy it?
Right.
And our method is a lot more, just our tagline: improve your eyesight and quality of life. We're not just saying get 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
It's actually improve your quality of
life too,
and moving towards something, and that it isn't just a quick fix. But it's certainly a fascinating topic, and I can really see us having to challenge it.
Yeah, we are a little on the outside on that because everybody else seems to want to buy into that, and we've resisted doing that. And it is the basis of self-healing too. That's why we use that word as well, because it's going back to letting your body heal itself by returning it to its natural state, rather than attacking it with some sort of fix, basically. So
okay, great. Well, it's a good time to move on to question of the week.
And the question of the week this week comes from YouTube, and it's someone who is obviously spending a lot of time on the computer and wondering whether this is going to have negative results, both short-term or long-term.
And this is kind of funny because we just spent the last couple of weeks planning a new lecture series that we're going to be doing here in San Francisco and online, which is focusing a lot more on computer use and using the computer safely and avoiding all the bad side that.
And we did just release a product that is downloadable onto your computer, so we're not anti-computer, obviously.
No, and Richard and I will be the first ones to admit that we are Apple geeks.
We are
as much as we want to be, and so it was interesting that this email came through or comment rather on YouTube. And I guess it's the same as just looking from near, not necessarily just the computer.
Yeah, that's the most obvious part about this, is that looking at your computer, you're at, on average, I guess 18 inches or something, which is about the same. Well, that's just reading distance, really. So you're just doing the same as someone if they read books. Think about that. Somebody would write in and say, if I read books 10 hours a day, will it hurt my vision? It's interesting to think about that. It could have happened, 50 years ago, and we would have said, yeah, it'll make you nearsighted to do that, especially at a younger age when the eyeball is still forming up until age 20, then that kind of activity definitely will make you nearsighted.
Yeah, the individual that made the comment said that they were 19.
Oh.
And probably about 8 hours a day, they said they were on the computer.
Yeah.
So, just inside that bracket there. But even if somebody's outside 21, by working from near all the time, then that muscle is becoming stiff and weak.
Right.
So you actually are making yourself, sounds crazy, you're making yourself nearsighted.
Right.
By doing that.
Yeah, it's just form following function. So if your function is to look at things all day from close, that's what your eyes will adapt themselves to doing, which is, and then the natural functions of your eyes that looked into the distance will start to atrophy or become more difficult. So
certainly there's other things out there about the flashing on the screen and the brightness of the screen. Also for us, there's things like staring at the computer. You tend to stare a lot more and blink less. So dry eyes, sore eyes, things like that.
Yeah.
And then we also tense up our shoulders and neck a lot more. So then, we've got some issues with that.
Blood flow, lack of blood. You're cutting off blood flow. It's all bad. The lack of blinking is reducing the sort of circulatory part of your eyes as well. And
then, of course, it leads to headaches more often than not from the strain and the shoulders, neck, head, and also the staring and not blinking. It's really an unnatural state to be in.
Let's add in they're not getting natural light. They're not outside for those hours getting some natural light to their eyes. So aside from all of those things, it's fine.
It's fine.
Go for it.
And we will be covering this obviously in a lot more detail, because this seems to be something that keeps returning to us, and a lot of people really want to know a lot more information on what they can do about this. And we, obviously Richard and I use the computer as ourselves, and having an internet business like we do, then obviously we're having to spend long hours at certain times. So we're not saying don't use them, but just be aware that there are these issues, and then you want to start looking for solutions.
I'm staring at one now, actually. We're in my office right now, and I've just set up this office somewhat recently. And there's my computer screen and a window just beyond it. So I can turn and look out. And I even designed my landscape so that I could have grown bushes, between about 12 feet out from the window. But I decided, no, I want to be able to look further. So there's things like that you can do so that you can look away from the computer screen and look into the distance, if there's anything you can do like that.
Yeah, and certainly just taking regular breaks as well, just getting out, going outside. I know it can be a lot difficult for a lot more people, but just getting away, and just like you say, looking into the distance obviously helps, battle the looking from near all the time. It makes sense just to try and do the opposite. So there's certainly plenty of things that you can do in order to help overcome computer strain, and we'll certainly be covering them in a lot more detail in the future.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, we hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you'd like to find a little bit more information about how you can start improving your eyesight, then head over to our website at envisionselfhealing.com. You can also find yourself a free ebook over there called A Modern Day Guide for Improving Eyesight, where we talk a lot more about the basics of vision improvement and indeed how society and our lifestyles is starting to affect our vision, and how easy it is for us to start doing some simple exercises to start getting back out of that and start improving your vision. If you're watching us on YouTube, then you could subscribe to us there, or if you're listening on iTunes, then you could also subscribe to us, and it means that you will get one of these weekly podcasts every week. You can also follow Richard and I on Twitter, and indeed check out our Facebook fan page, where you'll be able to see the some of the pictures that we've just put up there, and indeed the picture of the Envision Self-Healing t-shirt that my sister got us. So we're pretty pleased about that. So head over to the website and you can check that out now. Okay, great. Well, good luck with your eye exercises this week, and happy healing.
And have a good week.